Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Deb, and welcome back to
Life in Guatemala.
Today we're going to talk to you a little bit about residency status here in Guatemala. We see a lot of questions out there about should I get permanent residency, or how hard or easy is it to get residency? And we can't answer everybody's questions, but we can tell you about our journey and have a little bit of information and some websites that I'm going to provide, as also some immigration lawyer information that I'll provide for you, so that if you're going to seek residency here in Guatemala, maybe it'll be a little easier for you from the get-go. The first thing I want to tell you, this is not about citizenship. There is a difference between residency and citizenship, and this is not about becoming a Guatemalan citizen. This is simply a residency. And there's no problem with having a residency here as well as in your home country. We maintain a permanent resident address in the United States as well as here, just so you know. And we are permanent residents here as well. Why don't you tell them why we wanted to be permanent residents right from the very beginning when we first moved here?
Well, some of this was me. I'm going to say it was a little bit me more than Debbie, but we've known a couple of different friends from the United States who moved down here, and both of them, they weren't planning on staying here forever. And so they decided that just doing this kind of living down here on a tourist visa, which there's a number of people who do it and they have their reasons why. The thing is, a tourist visa for a person from the United States, and I'm guessing from Canada to
I don't
know
sure.
which countries get what, but in general, a person from the United States gets 90-day tourist visa upon entry into Guatemala, and they'll stamp your passport and then they'll write on there 90 days.
Usually. There have been times where somebody's only gotten 30 or 60 days.
Yeah, depending on different circumstances, there could be a different time. But the common is, at least as of now, the common length is 90 days. After that, you have to leave the country. The rule, I believe, states for 2 days or 3 days. There's some period of time.
48 hours, even though they don't always stick to that.
That they say you're supposed to leave the country. So that our friends, in general, they would go to Mexico, because where we were living at the time and where they lived, it was about 2 hours to go to Mexico. And then you can, there were some benefits going there. We went there a couple times, mainly to do some shopping there. They had a Sam's Club there, and they had a Home Depot there, and they have an AutoZone there. So you could kind of make a trip of it, or just spend some time there. Seeing different things there in Tapachula, Mexico, or along their coast, I guess, is fairly nice. Their Pacific coastline and down there, but
depending on where you live in Guatemala too, some people go to Belize also.
Like I said, where we lived, going straight north into the Mexican border, the big town there is Tapachula. Right. So that was an option. People who live in the south, they have some different things that they try and...
They have to get past El Salvador. They have to go to like Costa Rica or Panama, which you can get inexpensive flights to.
And this is what... I was just reading this on that Expats in Guatemala
page. They said if you fly...
If you can fly from Guatemala to El Salvador, because they're supposing that because you get into international airspace, then when you land, that's considered you left the country.
But we don't know that for a fact. We know that there's what they call the C4 countries, which is Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Honduras, and those you can visit within one another. They don't count as leaving the country if you go by land border, for sure. This is somebody posted this on a Facebook page about flying out. Can't tell you the authority of that.
It's just something that we heard. Right. So people who are permanent residents, or not permanent residents, people who are living in Guatemala, but at the more towards the south, it's quite a long trip to just drive across a border that you can renew your residency. Right. So anyway, or your tourist visa. Yeah. So anyways, the reason that we got around this, sorry for this long, drawn out thing, but I didn't want to have to go through that. I didn't want to have to think of, by this weekend we have to leave. And
spend the money and the gas and the time and whatever else.
Yeah. And it was just, I guess that was like the main reason.
It was for the sake of convenience, because we weren't aware of all the other things that we would encounter yet at that time, because we hadn't even moved officially yet. To give you a little bit of background, when we were going to move, Brian said, we're selling everything. We're packing it all up. We're not having something to fall back on. We're planning on staying. So let's plan on our residency right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I contacted this Facebook group that we're on quite actively and got some names of some immigration lawyers. And we worked with a lady by the name of Betty Lopez, who I don't know if she's working so much anymore. I don't see too many people recommending her anymore.
I thought somebody said she retired.
She might have. I'm not sure. But in the process, she answered my email with a full list of everything we would need to get our permanent residency as a pensionata. And we'll explain that in a minute. And she gave me this list and told me everything I needed to do. And it included like our passports and our birth certificates and our marriage certificate and a police or FBI background check and our fingerprints. And every single document we had to be both apostilled and notarized. Now, I didn't even know what an apostille was yet. And come to find out, basically it confirms the notarization. So just be thinking about that, because if you can get it done in the States before you get here, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, or wherever if you're coming from Canada.
From wherever you're coming from, exactly.
Heck, from Europe, there's some number of expats who are here from European countries. And we know this from reading people's posts on this thing. It's
people's experiences, right.
Where do you go to get... I need this fingerprint, who in the city does this? And then there's a bunch of discussion about who may or may not do it, and maybe you fly back to the States or whatever. It was just, after reading some of these things, we knew it was a lot easier to get all the stuff and have it ready, so when we moved down here, we could give that to the lawyer.
Because everything has to be 6 months old or less. It has to be fresh and have a date of 6 months or less to be considered still official. Otherwise, you have to start the process all over again. And we came down in October of 2018. I had all these documents, and by the way, I don't know what they are now, but at the time, the Secretary of State apostilled one page in Michigan.
Secretary of State.
In Michigan, apostilled each page for $1 a page. And I had a friend at the church where I was retiring from that notarized everything for us. So we got it done pretty inexpensively, which was kind of nice.
Isn't that how we got our background check?
That's how we got our background check as well.
We got our background check, and we had a friend who was a police officer who was able to do both the state and the FBI, federal or FBI fingerprints.
So we had everything through contacts that we had, and we had our, we knew the amount of income we needed at the time. What we learned for us, because we weren't retiring on Social Security or a full pension or anything like that, so a pensionata, which basically means you're getting retirement income regularly, is not one of the permanent residencies we were eligible for, but one called a rentista visa.
Earlier you said we got a pensionata.
No, I misspoke myself.
Okay.
We got the rentista.
We have the rentista.
All you have to do is
residency.
Prove income outside of Guatemala of a certain amount of money. That changes every year.
Well, it depends on how many people, too.
And
right?
It depends on how many people in your family. You need to ask your lawyer, how much money do I have to prove is coming in annually outside of Guatemala? And then you show proof of that income. And that document also has to be notarized and apostilled. So these are things that we knew in advance, and that really made it easy, because when we got here in October, by the third week of October, I had all the documents sent to the city, to this lawyer, And by February of 2019, we had permanent residency, which is pretty quick.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of a problem in ours that we might have gotten it quicker, but because, and this was something that we didn't really pay too much attention to, but here in Guatemala, they are very particular on your exact name.
Exact.
And Debbie had a document that instead of having her first, middle, and last name, it just had her first and last, or first, middle, initial, and last, and we had to make an extra trip to the city to sign some paperwork stating that, yes, these are both my documents. I am this person on both these. So it was just a lot quicker because I've read the stories, and if you do any amount of looking on that Expats in Guatemala Facebook page and look for residency, applying for residency things,
you're going to see a lot of stories.
Some people have been struggling with this for a couple of years, 3 years, and it's because either they try and do it themselves, which you can do it yourself.
That's what I was just going to say. There's a lot of people on there that are going to tell you, do this for free. Do it yourself. You don't need a lawyer. But I think that depends on two major things, in my opinion. What kind of residency? How easy is it? And two, where are you living? I mean, we were living 6 hours from the city.
I think it depends on a third thing, your fluency in Spanish.
Oh, that too. Yeah, very important.
Because if you come down speaking little to no Spanish or just very basic, it'll be difficult.
Right.
Because when you go to this office, everybody's going to talk to you in Spanish. You may run across an English-speaking person there, but I wouldn't count on it. And they don't have a provision for that, to my knowledge, that they have somebody to help somebody who speaks no Spanish. So
you can do it, though.
Yeah, you can do it without hiring a lawyer. A lot of people... another thing, some people hire a lawyer, but they look for the cheapest lawyer they can find.
And they end up having problems.
Yeah. And I haven't heard anybody say that, oh, I got the cheapest lawyer out there, $100, and I had my residency done in 6 months. It tends to be, I found this guy, and now they transfer me to somebody else. I paid a bunch of money. Now they want more money.
Or they disappeared. I don't have my documents.
Yeah, that was the latest one. A friend of ours had said is my lawyer just kind of disappeared. I can't get in touch with them.
And in fairness, she didn't say she bought the cheapest lawyer. She just said she had a lawyer.
But here's the thing, because we are going to put at least a lawyer's name down.
Well, we have a couple of lawyers that are recommended more often than not.
And one's the guy that we're using now to do our
annual residency tax and
because being a resident here, you have some amount of paperwork that you need to submit in forms to fill out every single year, and we don't bother doing that ourselves. We found another lawyer after our immigration lady has
we think she retired. Sure,
so we found another guy, and he's good, but he charges money.
Now, just to go back a minute, in our residency, if I remember correctly, at the time, 2018, it was $600 each for us to get our permanent rentista residency here in Guatemala.
That's the lawyer's fee.
That was the lawyer's fee. Plus, we paid any other small fees that came along the way, and our trips to the city for signing paperwork, which was a couple times, and because it was such a long drive, we had to stay there. There was some costs involved. Anyway.
I think we went to, just concerning that, I think we went to the city 3 times.
I think you're right, yeah.
The initial time to meet with the lawyer and to give her, I think we gave her the paperwork, and we had an actual face-to-face meeting with her. And then we had to go again when
because
you had
to
sign some documents. And then we went the
it was the final time because we had our interview.
Yeah, we went the last time for interview in the immigration office, whatever it's called there.
And you might ask, if you can do this yourself, why do I have to have a lawyer? Why did you get a lawyer? Besides the fact that they gave me all the list, I didn't have to look up everything myself. they took care of a lot of stuff in the city, going to the immigration office, which we didn't have to go to all the time.
Yeah, as far as I know, there was a handful of times that they had to go back and forth to immigration, and we didn't have to show up there. It's just submit this document
Right.
or get some documents, get them filled out or verified or something, then give them back. And we didn't have to go there for that.
Right.
And I think you mentioned this before. At the time, we were living about a 4.5-hour
No,
drive.
6 hour because we were in San Marcos. It's 4 hours from here.
Oh, that's true. So
Yeah.
almost a 6-hour car drive
Yeah.
from San Marcos to the capital. And it was just
It was a lot.
good convenience
It
for
was
us
very.
to hire the
It was
lawyer.
worth it for us to hire a lawyer. And then the next question you might ask: so why bother if I can just, if it's a quick drive, I can make a. I'm leaving to go to the States, or I can extend my visa and my tourist visa in the city. Why would I bother with permanent residency other than that? Well, some things that we learned after the fact: getting a bank account is a lot easier with residency. It's not impossible. It wasn't. I got mine before we got our full-time residency, but it's not easy, and it's getting harder from what I understand as I hear more stories.
Yeah, and here's something, if you've watched any of our other videos, this is a kind of a common theme, is just because something was told to you today or yesterday or a month ago doesn't mean that's the way it is
No, it changes all the time.
tomorrow
Yeah.
or the next person, or in this case of banks, in a different bank. You know, there's many a story of, well, I'm trying to go to BI bank and they're telling me that I can't get it. But somebody says, well, I went to GET bank and I got mine without
Right.
a problem. So there's multiple banks here
And
they
different
all
branches,
have their
yeah.
different rules, and there's different branches.
And
There's
another
different bank
thing-
managers.
Once you're a resident, you get your national ID card, which makes it easier for tax purposes if you need it. We don't in our case. You
Well,
get-
we had to use that, like if you buy a car here or something.
Yeah,
a
if
big
you buy
purchase.
big purchases, you have to have that. And even a non-resident can get your regular tax ID, the NIT, which we won't go into right now. But the other thing is, legally, a lot of people drive with just have their copy of their passport with them all the time. Technically, you're supposed to get a driver's license after a certain amount of time here. And if you become a resident, you're definitely supposed to get a driver's license, but you'll need your national ID card to get your driver's license. So there's a lot of things just to follow the rules. We just kind of wanted to follow the rules. You know, we hear so much about illegal immigration in the United States. We didn't want to be that here in Guatemala.
Yeah, and there's, you know, sometimes when people have a problem, they're living here on a tourist visa and they are going across the border. Sometimes the issue they have is the immigration officer at the desk is saying, I'm not giving you 90 days because
You need to get
you've been here. Look, basically they've lived here for 5 years.
As a tourist,
yeah,
right.
without getting their residency. And I understand that for some people it's hard because if you don't have a retirement income, how are you going to prove this? And there's a couple different
Yeah.
visas you can apply for, but the one, and I saw you had written it down here, it's like an investment thing.
Let's go into that. Let's do our list of. Let's start with.
Okay.
Let's start with the temporary. A lot of people get a temporary residency, and there's a lot of temporary residency options, including an investment visa that Brian was going to mention. You have $100,000 invested here, you get a temporary visa, temporary residency visa.
Did you see in that thing, what do they consider an investment here?
I think
you
it's like
open
land,
a business,
or
you
business, a house, things like that nature. There's student visas, there's artistic visas, there's religious visas, and I'm going to put in the description box a page that lists all the temporary visas you can get. And it's our understanding, if I've read everything correctly, after 2 years on one of these temporary visas, you have the right to apply for permanent residency from that point. So it's a process.
Right, and this is residency. Once again, this is residency, it's not citizenship.
Right, exactly. And then for permanent residency, immediate permanent residency, like we just talked about, our rentista, which is having income coming in from the United States that we don't earn here and being able to prove it, pensionada, is having a pension or retirement income that you get from outside of Guatemala, not just the United States, that's not provided here. And the amounts change depending on the year. In our case, I think it was 1,000. Now it's up to 1,250 for the rentista, I believe, but don't quote me. Check with your lawyer. And there's also marriage, if you marry a Guatemalan, or you have children here. Those are other routes to immediate permanent residency. I don't know those processes, but I am going to put a link to the actual migration website from the government of Guatemala in the description box. And it's a PDF document. It's going to come up in Spanish. You're probably going to have to translate it, but there's a lot of information in there. And then I have 2 other websites with general information about, one's from the U.S. Embassy about temporary visas, and another one's just information in general that somebody put together for getting permanent residency here in Guatemala that can help, besides just us talking to you about it here on this video.
Yeah, one thing's for certain, we can relay our experience and what we're hearing and what we went through 6 years ago now.
Right, it's different. Almost 7.
It's 6.5 years ago what we went through to get residency here. But we are not professionals at this by any means.
Oh no.
But Debbie says she's going to include links to things that can really help you out to learn more information, especially for your specific circumstance. Like she said, maybe you want to come down here, but you know it's only 2 years. Maybe you're getting like a job position here or something.
And in a case like that, my understanding is a lot of the jobs help you get that work visa for a temporary residency for that period of time.
Yeah, I would think maybe education too. If it's like in the States, because there's a number of Guatemalan students who end up studying in the States and they don't have official U.S. residency or something, but they can get a education thing. Visa, and the school that they go to most likely is helping them to get that. Exactly. So I'm assuming that it's the same kind of thing here. If a religious organization has you coming down here,
they usually help
I'm assuming they're going to help you somewhat too.
And we also have some friends, they're missionaries. They've been down here 17, 18 years now, and they're on a missionary permanent residency visa that they got that's not through a specific organization, is my understanding. So there is a type of visa to apply in that sense too.
Yeah, but there's a procedure to follow, because I remember they were saying this, and there's still a yearly procedure they have to follow, and that they have to go to the church that kind of sponsored them here or help them fill out their document, and every year they got to get some paperwork from them to submit.
Now, let's go back into documents a moment. You might ask questions like, well, how did we prove our income? I've done it 2 different ways right now. I've had a letter from our investment advisor that was, because it had to be translated into Spanish as well. They don't want everything just in English. You need everything translated to Spanish. And it had to be notarized and apostilled, stating that we get X number of dollars monthly as an income from our investment sources through this company. And that's been accepted twice. And then another time, I actually printed out.
This is after we lived here.
This is after we lived here.
A little while.
When one of the times I had to prove our income, I printed out my monthly statements from both the U.S. and showing that I moved money to a bank here in Guatemala, the monthly statements from the bank here, to show proof that income was coming in. They've accepted both ways, and I think some of that depends on how your lawyer presents everything as well. And things change all the time, as you've heard many times from us and other people as well. For example, we used to have to do this every single year. Now it's every 5 years we have to prove our income. That still could change again. But there's something that, because we're residents, that tourists don't have to do. We pay an annual residency tax of $40. If we plan on leaving the country while we're residents here, we also have to pay an additional $30 tax for what's a constancia, it's called. It's a piece of paper that says we paid our residency tax that we have to show at the airport when we travel.
that you may or may
You
not
may
have
or may not have to show it. There's a lot of talk
this
about
is
that.
This thing. Yeah, every time somebody flies in or flies out of the country, they'll say, they didn't ask me for my stuff either time. And then the next person says, I got asked both times. I only got asked coming in.
So don't worry about whether you're going to or not, get asked for something or not. If you always have everything in place and in order and easy access, then if you're just following the rules, you don't have to worry about it.
It saves a lot of
time.
Yeah, time,
heartache,
potential worry or whatnot. I just remember the one day, and we had this stuff, but Debbie made a copy of the Constancia and gave it to me. And when I was showing, because the lady asked, I want to see your Constancia, as I was going to fly out of Guatemala to the United States. And I gave it to her, and she goes, I need the original. This is a copy. And, we don't live 5 minutes away from the airport. And even if we did, how would I go back out and get it? Because Debbie can't go into security.
Right.
So it's better just to
have
the rules.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about whether they ask you for this or not. If they don't ask you for it, great.
Right. So that's kind of our informational video on residency. It doesn't answer every question you have, but it will tell you about our experience here, the things that we went through, the things that we chose to do. If you go on a Facebook page called Expats Living in Guatemala and ask questions, 1 million people are going to answer your question, and many are going to be different with different experiences.
And some number will say, use the search function.
And some are going to tell you.
This has been answered 1 million times.
Exactly.
So I think we covered everything on this list.
I think so too. So if you do have a question, put it in the comments below. If we have an answer, we'll answer it. If we can find it, we'll tell you where to go. And if we can't find it, we'll let you know that too. So we're just glad you joined us again. Thank you. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Well, thanks for watching. The common YouTube thing from a lot of channels is please like, share, and subscribe.
Exactly.
And I guess that's it.
That's it.
We'll talk to you next time.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.